Well, hello, sister travelers. Do you make excuses to why you can't travel? Do you think you don't have the money to travel? Well, my guests today are going to dispel that excuse for you. I have Vanessa and Shana from Budget Besties who talk about the B word and with women who make good money but have nothing to show for it. As master financial coaches, they have created an automatic budget system and they take the shame, the stress out of money and leave you feeling much lighter, even encouraged, and maybe even excited about actually funding that trip. So, welcome, Vanessa and Shana. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
We are so excited to talk about the B word, especially when it comes to traveling
Yes.
for your ladies.
Yes. So, I do get, I'm sure you get those excuses, women saying they just don't have the money, whether it's for travel or for something else. And can you talk about how you address that with some of your clients? Because we know I use the word excuse because I feel like it's an excuse. Like I feel like if you're not budgeting correctly or making it a priority, then it's not going to happen, right?
hmm I think what we see is that people don't even know how to budget in the first place. They haven't even put their numbers down on paper. They haven't looked at it as a whole. So they can say that they'll think that they don't have enough money. They think that it's not there. They think they can't afford it. But if they really just take a step back and plan it and see what that looks like for them. How can I invest in this thing that means so much to me? Chances are usually the money is there. We just have to reorganize everything.
Yeah, like Vanessa said, what we find is that people don't know if they have money for anything,
Yeah.
let alone travel. Like, let's be really honest here. A lot of times,
Yeah.
we have our head in the sand when it comes to our money or in our budget, and so we like to help people. Let's get a good bird's eye view of what everything is happening, and one of our little things is being bougie on a budget, and almost every woman that we work with. One of their things of bougie is either family vacations, like making memories with their kids, or they want to go do these things, these trips, solo travel adventures, maybe. That's definitely always a priority. It's just whether they don't know necessarily if they can afford it. And then I will say really quick, we're not really big into the woo woo. We don't know all of that, right? We're like hard, nerdy numbers girls, right? But I think a big part of it is a lot of women are used to the word no. They're used to it not being a possibility, or at least they
Or
think
allowed.
it's not allowed, it's not a possibility,
Mm.
and that's what they're basing their decision on, and it's not really reality.
Well, and a lot of people tell us, like, oh, what is one of the first things you have people cut from their budget? And we say, that's not what we do. That's not how we budget. That's not how we want to coach our people. And it's just about looking at your numbers, deciding, does this bring me joy? Do I love spending money on this stuff every single month? And if the answer is no, if you have 15 online subscriptions and you're also have other things that you do during the month that you spend money on
Starbucks.
right, Starbucks or whatever that don't bring you joy, but you can't save for that trip to Greece that you want to go to, then we need to really take a step back and, not necessarily say no, but it's just reorganize your money so you can say yes to what brings you joy.
I love how you used the whole thing of like we're so used to the no, but the having permission part
Mhm.
of, I think that's also what holds people back even from spending money on travel is they don't feel like they have the permission to do that.
Mhm.
From maybe an internal standpoint. Have you come across that too, just in dealing with some of your clients and that the whole, like you said, the joy thing? I think I want to have you speak a little more on that, you know.
Yeah, well, I do think that that's true, and I don't have an example that comes to mind immediately about travel, but one of our clients, I remember she paid off her van, and she did a really good job. They worked really hard on getting their budget set up, and she wanted to get debt free, and so they were funding everything. And her thing that she wanted to do was get a yoga certification,
Mm.
which was like a whole experience. It wasn't just like pay $200 online and get it. It was this whole in-depth, year-long, fun thing that she was going to do. And she's like, well, maybe next year. And I was like, what are you talking about? Let's look at the numbers right here. You can fund this in two
Mhm.
months and you better sign up, girl. And it's just, again, like we said, it's just I'm used to not having money, or I'm used to being panicked about money, or I'm used to the answer being no, but it's not
Mhm.
actually reality when we look at all the numbers.
And this is why we say it's the B word. Nobody likes the word budget. The minute they hear the word budget, they are like, nope, a whole wall goes up. They're totally guarded.
Their fingers go in the air.
Yeah.
Like, la,
They're
la, la,
like,
not listening.
I'm not doing this, but it's not necessarily about being restrictive. But unfortunately, the language around budgeting for so
Mhm.
many years has been, no, 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 you can't, rice and beans mentality. You can't go into a restaurant unless you work there, like all of this. And that's just not what we've realized that our clients, that's how they want to live. And so we've really tried to change the narrative around being bougie on a budget and allowing your budget to give you the permission to spend on the things that you love. And I have one example of a client, and he's single, and he said, listen, I will pay off all this debt, but I am not giving up my vacations. And he was a huge traveler. And so could he have paid off all his debt in half the amount of time that it took him? Yes, but it's fine. He did it the way he wanted to do it, because he was able to pay cash for all of his vacations while we were coaching, and still to this day, and pay off all his debt. So he did both, and he enjoyed the ride versus it feeling, restrictive, and he hated it.
Yes. Yeah, because I see a lot of women, they'll wait till that whole retirement age before they start to enjoy life or think.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
guaranteed.
Hold on. I'm
Right.
so sorry. I have to go off on a tangent on this because I
Yeah.
just got back from a vacation, and I'm 42. I think I'm 42. And I was already a little old to be on this vacation. There was 89 steps to my villa or whatever I was
Mhm.
staying on the island. 89 steps straight up. Okay. And I was like, look, I told my husband, it's like, if I was doing this when I was 60 or 70, I would be very upset. And I would just not leave the villa. Right. So yes, you need to travel now while you're young and you
Mhm.
can enjoy it.
Mhm.
And there's less risk of falling,
Correct.
which I did fall one time. Okay. And I
Oh,
don't want to
wow.
be falling in a foreign country. Okay. Sorry. Rant is over. I just had to say.
Well, and retirement's not guaranteed. My
Yeah.
parents
Correct.
right now are retired, and my dad got stage 4 prostate cancer back to back, right? And it's so their life right now is very drastically different than they thought it was. They thought they were going to be traveling and going on cruises and doing all this stuff, and
Yep.
they cannot do that. So no, don't wait, but you just make it happen on purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And your example of that guy who still was able to pay off debt, but it just took him longer because he wasn't willing to give up on the travel. And I agree because I hear so many people, like your example of maybe your parents, Vanessa, that they wait till retirement and then something health-wise happens and they
Yep.
can't go. And it's
Well,
just, it makes me so sad. Or when I'm traveling and I see older folks that maybe can't get around, like they're maybe
Yeah.
in a walker or something, and they're missing out, I think, on a lot of just, like you said, the joy part of not, not having this. I think the whole thing, like you said, the budget, when people say budget, they think that my life is over, right? Like this is just,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's going to be awful and I can't spend any money and I can't enjoy myself. But I love your approach to that. It is, you still want to have enjoyment. We still want to have that within our budget, so to speak. And I love how you guys do the buckets for the savings kind of thing. And I know that I have a bucket for savings for my travel. I make that a priority, but not everybody does that. And I know that you can, kind of talk a little bit about what are some savings buckets that you kind of recommend for people.
Yeah.
well,
Start.
yeah, I'm going to back up a minute
Yeah,
real quick.
we'll get
because-
there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking about her client, that I remember him, and we've had several clients that will come on and be like, look, I'll budget, but I'm not giving up my pumpkin spice lattes. I'm not giving up my travel. I'm not giving up this and that. And we're like, we never asked you to.
Yeah.
But really with it, the main thing, like, you can pay off debt slowly and like make your memories. What is really cool is, and what we like to see is, let's not continue to use debt, right? That's really the first switch. We want to pay for these vacations in cash so you can really enjoy them. And
Yeah.
that is where the savings buckets really come into play.
Thank
Yeah,
you. for correcting that. Yes, absolutely. You're
right. And when we make your budget, so we have it in, 3 steps, and it's basically simplify your money so you can see it all on one page. Anyone can make a budget for your utilities, your mortgage, your gas and groceries, and say, oh, I'm good, I've called it a budget, and then move on. But you put words and numbers on paper and you didn't do anything about it, and you called it a budget, and you think that that's helping, and then you walk away and that paper gets shoved in the desk drawer, maybe it gets thrown away, maybe the bunny eats it, like it happened with mine. My little bunny ate my budget. It's like things happen to it and you don't do anything. But what we have done with ours is we make a budget and then we have a system in place. So that way it takes that budget and it comes to life. And so we talk about separating your money and the savings bucket of having something for travel set aside every single month. So you know that you're going to be able to hit those goals and go on these vacations that you want. It's really fun to be able to look at your money and say, how much do I think I cost in a year? What do I think I'm going to be doing this year? And if that's spending $3,000 on Christmas, if that's spending $5,000 on travel this year, if that's, my daughter's wedding is happening, you have a couple buckets set up that are important and meaningful. Annual bills, people forget about how important paying for annual bills are. But if you have these buckets set up and they're labeled and they're categorized and you know exactly how much you need to put in them every single month to hit your goals, that is making a true budget for yourself. Like that's where, and none of our budgets are cookie cutter. We don't do cookie cutter systems. Everyone's budget is different and it's based on what their goals are and what's truly important to them.
Yeah. And our budget is really simple, 5 columns. And the last one that we're talking about is savings. And so we want to find out your income. We want to look at your debt payments. We want to look at your bills very specifically, separately, what you're going to spend in a month. And then that's how you know how much you have left over to save. And whether you have a lot or little, we love we love it when you're able to start your savings buckets, because it really, when we were talking about the answer's always no, or I might as well just not even try, you can really change the mindset that you have when you start saving money. And especially we love to have separate accounts and we name them. Like maybe you want to go to Bali when you have someday in the distant future turn 40, a long time from now, when you turn 40 and you want to go to Bali, you have a little savings bucket and you name it Bali. And even if you're only putting $50 a paycheck in there or whatever it is, it's still feels different. It still really starts to get you, prepared and understanding the kind of person that you are, which is saving to go on a vacation that you paid for in cash. Now, that's where we start. We really look at all of those numbers, though, to see maybe you can put way more than that. Let's go to Bali when we're 40 or 39 and a half. No, and that, but knowing your numbers is really going to help you figure out how much you can put to that, which is going to be something. It's going to be something. You're going to be able to do it.
I love that. You talk about the mindset, the kind of that shift that happens when they're able to save. But do you find that there's more mindset work that needs to be done with people that are, you're working with clients or they have the deadly idea of budget, right?
I think we just want them to see progress. I think once they see progress, like I have a client, he got paid, he got a new job and he was all excited and she got a bonus. Like all this stuff happened last month. And I just had their session this week. And they were so used to when money came in, they would move it. Like they would move it. And then like slowly throughout the month, they would need it put back because they would need to spend it, because they were putting it into a generic savings account that had no purpose, but they just knew that it needed to be out of the account for them to not spend it, which wasn't the case. So I told them, I said, when you get all this money, let it sit in your account. I want you to see all of that money in your account. And then when we meet, we'll talk about it. And so when we met, I said, how much is in your bills account? And she said, $12,000. And I said, and how do you feel about that? Wow. She's like, I've never seen that amount of money in my bank account at one time. And then her husband said, we are becoming and because he repeated what I tell him, like he's like, we're becoming the type of people that are okay with having money. Yeah. I said, you have to start there.
Well, and therapy. So here's what it makes me laugh because I just wrote a question on our coaching page on our website about whether do I need a financial coach or a therapist? And so I was just laughing, and therapy really does help you sort through stuff in the past. Yeah. We are not dealing with that. And really, truly, Cheryl, honestly, most people's problem with money, or they think they're bad at budgeting or whatever, it actually is not a mindset. It's not a therapy issue. It is literally that you've never been taught how to budget. How, like, you're putting all this pressure and shame on yourself that you're not doing it right, or you're not doing it as well as you should, but nobody ever taught you. And that's really what happens. So as soon as we set up the, sort of guardrails and bucket, we take the cash envelope system and make it digital. So it's so simple, so clear, so easy for you immediately. It's immediate. And so that's what makes me think, or pause thinking, it's not really a mindset issue as so much as you don't have a system, you don't know what you're doing. And as soon as you do, people get amazed. They're like so fast to stop spending money. They get really excited about saving money because they know what's actually happening. And so that's where we're really excited for them. And we don't really focus so much on the the mindset stuff, because it really cures itself. You like
Okay.
immediately you become, okay, I
Yeah.
have money in the bank and I don't even have to spend it. Look at me,
It's a byproduct, right? Their mindset shift, their habits, like all of that is a byproduct of what we work through, but we're very tactical. And again, what they want to know is, are they going to get results from this? And by us organizing their money, separating it, and we like to set it up automatically for them to show them how it works. So it's hands off. That's the big thing is imagine not having to make the transfers, do all and make all these decisions in the moment. If you can just set it up and it's like set it and forget it type of situation, 90% of your budget, then you're going to be successful. And it's like you have to work harder at messing it up than you do just letting it work in your favor.
Well, and just, I'm sorry, I know we're talking a lot. That's kind of kind of our deal. How many people go mess it up is much fewer than you would think. So what she means is they have put money in their wedding for their daughter's account, right? How many people go and steal from that is, I don't even know if I can count any. Like people don't do that. They might spend some extra in their bills because they're not used to having that separated. But people, as soon as they have some guardrails, as soon as it's very clear, they're really good at budgeting. It's amazing. But again, just don't feel bad. Don't put shame on yourself. No one ever taught you how. And especially this travel savings bucket that you're going to have. No one ever taught you that this is how to do it. And you're going to do it and you're going to feel really good about it.
Yeah, I think it's true because I've even commented recently to somebody that they don't teach kids and even just going through school, like any of these basic skills such as budgeting. Like there's nothing like that taught. So you're right. We get into adulthood and we just go about our lives and we are just like, what is, what is this? I have money, I'm going to spend it, right? They don't have a, guard.
I figured it out. I hacked it.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, it's way more complicated now. So
way more bills.
Look, I already told everybody I'm 42. It's fine. I remember doing the check register in elementary school, right? And that's what I learned. That's okay. Who uses, it's fine if you do, but that's not the life that we're living anymore. Okay. Budgeting, money, all of that is digital now. It's way more complicated. There's so many more bills that you have. You didn't have no Netflix and cell phone bill when you did your check register budget in sixth grade or whatever. So it is more, it's not only that we weren't taught, it's that everything is different now. And so just give yourself grace. You don't know, but that's okay. So just take it on yourself to learn, figure it out, and you'll feel better.
The other thing is that because it's more complicated, people think that it has to be more complicated to organize it and to maintain it, to manage it, right? Yeah. So that has turned into them tracking everything. They feel like they have to track every single expense throughout the month to be successful in quote unquote budgeting, there's a ton of apps out there. Even Dave Ramsey has a budgeting app out there, but it's literally a tracking app all throughout the month. It tracks all your transactions. And it's just not something that we think that you have to do. Nobody has time for that. We are busy. We have families, we have travel to do. We have, a community to be involved in. We have church to be involved in, there's a lot going on. And so to feel like you have to be in your finances all the time, tracking every single time you go to the grocery store, every single time you get gas, that's just not what we want. So we talk about, at the beginning, separating your money so that way you have buckets and categories. And as long as you're spending your travel fund that's in your travel bucket, have a good time. I don't care if you spend it all on one plane ticket or you go somewhere and you spend it all on going out to eat while you're on vacation, whatever you want to do with it, but it was in your travel bucket and you used it for the purpose that it was intended. So this tracking era that everyone is in right now of having to get a budgeting app to account for everything that's going on, like that mindset is what we try to remove from everybody.
Yeah. And you are right. It's more complicated, but I love how you address the whole, like everything's digital now and making sure that your system kind of addresses that. Like it's very digital. You've had the separation. I have to admit, I'm going to try to do it. I do the old Dave Ramsey envelope system.
Hey, I did it.
For some of my, annual bills or savings and that kind of stuff. But I do love the approach where you said a savings account and just having those separate buckets. And so I'm going to work on that. So it's digital. So I'm not having to go and take the money out after I get paid, and put it in those separate envelopes.
Talk about things nobody has time for.
Right. Yeah. So I love that you've addressed the simplifying. We don't have time for that. We are busy people. And I do love that.
It's totally translatable. We were actually trained by Dave Ramsey. We went through his program. That's where we started. And we both did everything, cash envelopes, went to
Yeah.
the bank, had the envelopes, some of them were fancier. We got fancier
We did get
envelopes.
super cute ones.
And
Yeah.
then we just went totally digital because our clients didn't want to do that. Do you know how hard it was to get to them to go to the ATM every payday? They were like,
Right.
ah. So anyway, so we took the whole system, the whole cash envelope system. And this is why a lot of people resonate with us is digital now. So you can still have where you feel like, okay, I separated it. I'm saving for the things. I have the money set aside for groceries. I feel really good about it.
Mhm.
But it just, I don't have to go and do anything manually because I don't have time for that.
Yes, I love that. So, so great. And I'm going to get back to the whole traveling without guilt because
Yes.
I mean, I've been there. I might budget, I might have cash or think I have enough for a trip, and then maybe I under budgeted or whatever. But there's also been times many years ago where, we're kind of in a society where we're encouraged to use our credit cards to earn
Mhm.
those points for travel, right? Which has benefited me. But then you come back from the trip and you have this sitting on your credit card. You have this debt now that's just weighing on you, and then you almost can't enjoy what you had, when you
Right.
were there. So I love the fact that you're stressing the whole savings buckets, creating something that gives that person joy. If it's a
Mhm.
priority, then let's, figure out a way to save for it.
Well, and really quick on that, when
Mhm.
you're saving in a high yield savings account and that's making
Mhm.
3.5, 4.5, 5% interest back every month on the money that you're putting in there, you're making more than you're going to be making on credit card points. And it's way less stressful. And so when you're spending money, your credit card balance or your credit card limit, whatever it's called, is not a budget. And as you spend
Mhm.
money on that, the balance goes up and there's no cap. It doesn't tell you, oh, you've hit your budget limit of however much you said you were going to spend. No, 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 they're not doing that on purpose. They want you to put as much as you can on there versus if you're using an account where you have the money that you designated for that specific trip or whatever,
Right.
the money is dwindling down as you're using it. So it clearly tells you how much more
How
you
much?
have to spend. And it just holds you accountable. And again, we're not telling you to put 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. We're not telling you an amount of money to put in there. You get to decide that based on what
Mhm.
your budget allows and what you want. You get to put those guardrails, but they're guardrails that make you excited to hit those goals.
Well,
Mhm.
and the other thing is a lot of people don't, like you said, they come back and they're like, okay, well, how am I going to pay this off? And then that in itself, the debt that you already have might be part of the guilt that you're feeling where
Mhm.
you can't travel because I have all this credit card debt.
Mhm.
And so as much as the points seem like they're a great idea, as much as credit cards are convenient, we're not necessarily disagreeing with that. We're saying the mindset, the heaviness, having that debt weighing you down is not worth it. It's not worth it. It's going to feel so much better to know that, like Vanessa said, you have cash in an account and you're ready to go. And so we want to sort of help you to like feel like you don't have to feel guilty about the debt in order to go on vacation. We actually will have a debt workshop. We'll talk about that at the end of this podcast, but so that you can figure out your debt situation and then you can go from there. You can say, okay, I'm going to be sort of studious about this and pay a little. This is my plan to pay off debt
Mhm.
while I'm also still saving
Mhm.
Yes.
for to go on these trips because they don't have to be mutually exclusive, like we
They're
said.
not correlated.
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
both at the same. You can do two things at one time.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to address that because that might be part of that guilt is that you already have debt. That doesn't mean you're not allowed to go on
Mhm.
vacation, friend. It's okay.
Yeah.
All of the debt that my one client had to pay off was all vacation debt. And he said, I'll pay this off while I'm still going on vacation, but I will pay for this vacation starting in cash, right?
Cash.
So,
Okay.
yes, I understand there's a lot of people that can have that guilt of, well, I obviously can't go because I'm still paying off whatever $50,000 from 3 years of travel. But you can and you should because you're going to miss out and you're going to
Yes.
regret not going on those vacations.
Correct. Yeah. It just reminded me of when I backpacked Europe in my 20s. I had no credit cards. And so I mean, the cash I had, it was the cash I had. And literally, we got to the last 2 days of our trip and we had so little money. Like, literally, we were gathering it was francs or at the time because we were in France, not euros. And, like, what can we buy? And literally, we went to this restaurant our last night and we're splitting food, my friend and I. And I just recall, like, we're like, okay, we just have to make it through to catch a plane tomorrow. Like,
we're
okay,
fasting. We're fasting after,
fasting. Yeah, like
this
yeah,
meal.
we shared a bowl of rice or something like that. All right. And so this, yeah, because that's all we had. Like we couldn't use credit cards. And so that was our ceiling. Like that was it.
Well,
The lovely thing was a couple next to us, and midlife kind of age couple, maybe in their 50s. They were from Houston, Texas. I'll never forget. They obviously were watching us and they said, "We're paying for your meal and go ahead and get a dessert on
oh,
us." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like we have a few extra francs now to get to the airport." It was
we
like,
can get water on
we
our
can
way
get water,
home.
yeah. So, I mean, to go back to that whole idea of like, oh yeah, you're only able to spend what you have. Like I just kind of that's kind of what you're doing, but digitally, right? So it just reminded me of that story, like, oh yeah, I couldn't use a
Well,
credit card. You know, it's
and
like
that's Cheryl, that's a very basic lesson. So when we talk about how you weren't taught how to budget, spending what you have, only what you have, that is something we all know. We know. But
Mhm.
if we weren't taught how to budget, what we were taught, what we did hear, what we did get overwhelming marketing things was anything credit, right? And so
Mhm.
any message that you've gotten has been that,
Yeah.
and it's counterintuitive to common sense. I spend what I have. That's all I do. And then when I'm out, I'm done spending. Ta-da. And then the
Yeah.
the credit cards change that whole behavior. And
Yeah.
then that's what's making you feel weighed down because it's not correct. It's
Yeah.
not right. So,
Well, and the reality is if you want something that you don't have the money to spend it and you want to put it on a credit card, you can't afford it.
that's what that
Like
means.
if you don't have the money, then you can't afford it. And so,
It's weird.
but it is hard. And I do have some clients, usually the husbands or the men, that they're like, yeah, but if I have these credit cards, I have access to like $50,000. And I was like, okay, well, it's not yours.
You have
And
access to be in debt for $50,000.
right.
Right.
And like, what is that doing to you? Like they think it's like some prestigious whatever that show that they have this money. I'm like, it's, you don't have it. It's zero, right? And it's not yours. And when you go to borrow it or whatever, you're going to have to pay it back with interest. So, but it's a mindset. It's a whole mindset shift. And what we like to say is, okay, great. When you have 50 grand in the bank, those credit cards now become obsolete, right? You don't need them. And that is really good for them to understand is, oh, I can actually have that cash that is mine, that I do own, that's gaining interest every single month versus feeling like I have to have a credit card to be able to quote unquote use that money if I need it.
Yeah, I think we all need to adhere to that sort of approach. If I can't afford it with cash, I can't buy, can't put it on a credit card. And I think that's, the credit card companies know that. They draw us in and then I've been in some huge debt, right? Like when I first got divorced and just having I had to completely start over. Like I had nothing. And so everything got put on my credit card with the move, buying furniture, paying for a lawyer,
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely.
And
It
it was
happens.
so burdensome to get out from under there. And, I did, thankfully, but man, it's a weight. It's a heavy weight to carry that. And it's freeing when you
Mhm.
are able to actually, hey, I have the money. I can spend my money, right?
Mhm.
And not carry that burden and be a slave to the lender, as it
Sure.
says, right?
We have a lot of single women that come to us for coaching and that need assistance because they are by themselves. They are doing this alone. They have nobody in their corner. They have nobody to cheerlead them, to show them they were never taught, and then their husbands probably took care of the finances when they were married. And it is rewarding, even though like our podcast, we don't necessarily speak to solo or single women, but we have a huge amount of them that come to us because they just need that extra support.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that because we do need support. Yeah, it's hard, especially like you said, if they've never had to manage money. I mean, I handled all of our finances when I was married, so I had a really good understanding of all that. But I do see a lot of women going through divorce and they're kind of clueless,
Yeah.
The
financially.
first time. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I was just going to real quick, Cheryl, we have an episode from January, number 521, where we had our client come on and she was the same. When you said that, it reminded me, she had a credit card when she moved out with her two kids
Mhm.
and that's it. And so, so that's a really good episode to kind of,
Okay.
maybe be inspired or just feel good. Like
Yeah,
it's hard, but you can do it. And,
absolutely.
and you're going to come out stronger. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And your client's probably a testimony. I'm a testimony of that you
Well,
can,
and
yeah.
that's the other thing that we haven't said yet. Women, you're so capable, you're so smart, you're so good in maybe some other areas of life. And we put so much shame and pressure on ourselves about this one area that we just don't know. I mean, you knew finances, but that doesn't account for doing it on your own, having to start
Mhm.
from nothing. Like that's a whole different thing that you have to give
Whole
yourself
different thing.
grace to figure out. And she did the same
Yeah.
thing. She was a really successful
Yeah.
realtor. She figured it
Yeah.
out. I helped her a little bit for 6 months and then she's good to go, And
Yeah.
so just don't put any shame on yourself. You don't know what you don't know, and it's okay to learn for a little bit. So
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well, ladies, I mean, this has been so good. I think we've talked a lot about, giving women permission or just people permission, and then getting them learning how to budget, but not just tracking. I love that we're not just tracking. I think that's a big hiccup with a lot of people. And I think your system, which I know you're going to speak a little bit, tell me a little bit what you have something coming up soon that maybe folks can learn a little bit more about your budget system, how they maybe can get connected to you socially, social media, and share a little bit. I know you have a wonderful budget system and even work with clients one-on-one. So tell us how you can help my audience here.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the beginning of every year, we do this budget boot camp workshop, and it's wonderful. And the huge response that we got from that was, can you do a debt payoff workshop?
Oh,
And
great.
so we plugged one in before summer. And so it's going to be May 28th at noon central. And you can go to our website, budgetbesties.com/debt workshop to check it out. But it's just really going to be about knowing your numbers, understanding how you can make a budget that you love, that's exciting, and it's going to allow you to pay off debt.
well, and we're going to speak to again, give yourself a permission to be a learner, a beginner, right? There's different payoff methods. You've heard obviously the snowball, but
Yes.
avalanche, the debt minimums. There's different things to consider, interest rates, all of that. And sometimes it feels like this space is filled with like finance bro words. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what are we talking about?
Manly terms.
And so we're going to make it very
Yeah.
simple and help you come up with a plan to pay off your debt. And then also we're going to talk about our budget, which we do have a budget system that we tried to make one pretty. Like I'm just gonna be honest.
Even the guys like it.
Yeah, it looks
It's
really
so
pretty. Like you kind of want a budget because it's not so scary, right? It's all on one page. It's very simple. That was what we set out to do, to make it something that you might be willing to do. And that's our budget system. And you can find out about that at budgetbesties.com/budget. But we have a podcast kind of like yours too,
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
we talk to women specifically about budgeting
Mhm.
and financial coaching, and they can find that at Financial Coaching for Women.
Yeah, we have over 500 episodes, so many free resources on there. You can hop on and learn our entire system.
Okay. Well, and I'll make sure I include those in the show notes too, like your links and stuff for your podcast and your
Yeah.
website too. So awesome.
Okay, so Cheryl, let's tell your friends. Let's tell
Yep.
your friends that are listening. If they have one thing they're going to do today, they're going to go talk to their bank or their credit union. Or you can do it online. If you can do it online, do it online. Open another savings account. It's a separate savings account, and name it travel, name it solo
Yeah.
adventures, name it
Yeah.
vacay,
Name it the next vacation you're going to
Yeah,
take, whatever
name
you
it.
want to do.
name it something fun.
Absolutely.
Put $25 in there. That's where you're starting. And then you're going to look at our budget, or you're going to get on your budget and see
Mhm.
what you can contribute regularly.
Regularly.
But do
Mhm.
that. Just do it. Be the kind of person that's a travel savings account. That's
I
your kickoff.
agree. I have one. You should have one.
Yeah.
One step closer.
I love it. Thank you for that action step, because I love action steps and really encouraging my listeners to go do that. I totally agree. Well, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed it. I've learned a lot, and I hope my audience has also are ready to take care of their budget and get to traveling.
Well, hopefully it's not going to be the B word, right?
Nope.
Much longer. People are going to be okay with the budget word. They're knowing
Yes.
that it gives you the permission to spend, how you can save for different things. It's exciting, and it's what is in your budget is what you're excited about and brings you joy.
Amen. I love it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, love it.